Jumia Nigeria CEO Juliet Anammah says the African Continental Free Trade Agreement will foster partnerships among e-commerce firms within the continent and impact Nigeria's economy significantly. She joins me now to share more insight on the opportunities the Continental Pact will have on Africa's e-commerce space. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Juliet.
Thank you.
Now, much talk about the CFTA and, of course, Nigeria not signing to that agreement yet, but that will not stop us from talking about the benefits that we have here. Let's talk about, of course, the benefits this will play out in the e-commerce space. But before we even talk about that generally on the continent, let's even talk about how it's even faring so far. You know, the agreement aside, how is e-commerce faring on the African continent today?
I think, well, I can speak about the Jumia, how Jumia is faring in the continent as an example of how e-commerce is faring. I think it's doing pretty well. One of the things that e-commerce sets out to do is more or less breaking down barriers, is allowing access, allowing people to be able, facilitating transactions, basically. That's what an e-commerce platform does. So from that perspective, when you look at the number of people who don't have access for multiple reasons, maybe it could be because they are not geographically close to a market where they can access the kinds of goods that they want. When you look at it from also the perspective of maybe people who don't have access to internet or other kinds of infrastructure platforms that bring them into the market. I mean, e-commerce is breaking down those barriers. So even when you talk about the Continental Free Trade Agreement, I look at it from the perspective that, look, in Nigeria today, with Jumia, a vendor who's based in Lagos, he can sell to a customer who's based in Kaduna. Before, because of limitations of geography, space, and time, maybe the customer who's based in Kaduna may never have ordered from someone who's based in Lagos.
But is Jumia, you know, a good yardstick to measure how well e-commerce is performing on the African continent? You're a big player on this scene. You have up-and-coming players as well. Those who have actually been on the scene for a while now and are also struggling, and that's why I'm asking that question. How much of the challenges over time do you think businesses generally have been able to overcome? You know, even if, yes, most countries have actually signed up to this agreement, is there a possibility of it really succeeding? Let's talk about the challenges that have really bedeviled that sector over the years, and how much have we really resolved?
Significantly. There's been a significant progression since, I would say, e-commerce started maybe the early days of 2012. And there are multiple areas, whether it's in terms of logistics. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we didn't have any logistics player in this market who was ready to deliver to the last mile. That is, deliver to your home. They were ready to do point to point. So I would take it from your warehouse, I'll drop it in a local distribution center in Benin or Port Harcourt. No one was ready to take it to your last destination and collect cash in the bargain. So a lot of that has changed. Today, you have a full marketplace of third-party logistics partners who can do that. 5, 6 years ago, maybe people didn't trust that you could order something online and it would be delivered. Now you've sort of gotten over that hump. There are significant areas. I mean, these are just 2 examples. Payment, look at payment infrastructure as well. It has improved over the last 6 years. The number of products that are available online today has improved significantly. When we started 2012, maybe max 10,000, 20,000 items were available on Jumia. Today, it's over 5 million items. And it's being provided by vendors who are in the market.
Now, you see, of those 5 million items you talk about, how many of them are locally produced? Because if we're going to benefit from the whole CFTA and talking about, you know, improving interregional trade, it's about also marketing locally produced goods. So how much of that is locally produced?
Okay, now, there's no way e-commerce will not represent the market in which it operates. Okay, so if you ask yourself the same question in a larger retail environment in Nigeria, what is the percentage of products that are sold in retail outlets that are locally produced? The answer is going to be minimal. It's low relative to the larger scale of items that are produced. So e-commerce is a microcosm of the larger market. So in the same vein, you will find that products that are sold on Jumia, a smaller percentage of those will be locally produced in the market. But I don't look at it from that perspective. I look at it from the perspective that, look, you have a platform that makes it possible. It makes it possible for local manufacturers. We have, in the same vein, we're talking about the scale. So you have a smaller percentage that are locally manufactured. You also have stories of people who never started anything at all until they started on e-commerce. And they're in other areas like fashion or small accessory production and so on and so forth. Now, all we need to do is take those stories, those kinds of examples, and ensure that we're replicating more of those across the continent. That's what I see, at least starting with Nigeria, for example.
Interesting. Yeah. So when we talk about Jumia, just talk us through your reach really on the continent. Like, how many countries do you operate in? What's the farthest really when it comes to meeting the customer at their doorstep?
We are currently operating the e-commerce platform. We have both. We have, of course, like the Jumia, which you call the mall, and then we have, of course, travel services. We have food delivery. We have classifieds and so on. The motto is a full ecosystem of services that we provide. We are in about 15 countries and developing another 6 countries. So we are as far-flung as Egypt and Morocco to the north, as we are all the way down to South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon in the western part of
well, for people who are still a bit skeptical about operating within this space, just talk us through what benefits you think the CFTA holds, for e-commerce business.
I think the CFTA, the reason why I gave the example of a vendor based in Lagos selling to a customer based in Maiduguri and Kaduna, because fundamentally, when you think about it as a customer, you don't care where the seller is based. What you want is what you want. You want the product, you want it at the right price. Okay. So if that is possible intra-country, then imagine the scale and the opportunity that it represents when it then happens on an intra-continent scale perspective. So that's the opportunity that is there. There are vendors, whether they are small-scale manufacturers or whether they are small retailers or big distributors in the market, who, because they have that accessibility, have been able to triple, quadruple their volumes over trading on the e-commerce platform. So if you look at it, take the Nigerian example that I just gave you, and then you say, let me multiply it on a continental scale, then you can see the opportunities that exist.
Think of it, it seems it's one of the businesses that actually have, what I call it, the least barriers, really, to begin with, in terms of even payment methods. Yes. Because in the past, when people talk about doing business interregionally, the payment method was
always a big issue. Yes,
currencies and how to reconcile this.
Exactly.
So it seems, of course, e-commerce really just eliminates that hurdle and takes the business forward. But just give us your outlook and what expectations, what do you think should be put in place if we're really going to maximize what the CFTA has to offer? We understand what you want on paper, but what do you think is going to make it a reality?
I think the first thing, honestly, if you ask my perspective, the technical things are not the roadblocks. I think the real roadblocks are the mindset. It's just sitting down and understanding that, look, whether we like it or not, whether we sign the Continental Free Trade Agreement or not, there will be cross-border trade in Africa. Of course. China is building the one belt, one road, one belt, one road. And that's basically to link East Asia with East Africa and Central Europe in one belt of trade. Okay? Alibaba today has signed a digital free zone with Malaysia to link Malaysian small businesses with Chinese vendors and some American farmers as well. It's projected that by 2025 it will create 60,000 jobs. So cross-border trade will come. So I think the first and fundamental thing is the mindset that, look, there is an opportunity in cross-border trade. Yes. There will be challenges. There will be things we need to fix. We need to fix tariffs for sure. We need to fix some industries that we need to protect because they are fundamental to the growth of the economy, and therefore there needs to be some measures that are put in place to protect those industries. But I don't think the issues are really technical. I think the issues are really, the mindset that, look, this is the way the world is going, and therefore let's get onto the driving seat of making it happen on our own terms, because if we don't, someone else is going to do it. And we won't have the opportunity to dictate the terms then.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for your contribution. Juliet, I've been talking to Juliet Anammah, CEO, Jumia Nigeria.